Hello guys again. This time I want to make another slightly off-topic video about a story I want to tell you guys about that you guys probably heard about in like Lazy Masquerade or Haunted Stories. By the way, I want to have both their channels in the link below. But here is a story that I like to read you guys about from Reddit that I think you guys might be interested about. My name is Ned. I am 33, soon to be 34 years old, and I am the only child of a Ted Bundy survivor, Carl the Roach. Her story takes place on November 8th, 1974, in the Sears parking lot in Salt Lake City, Utah. She was out shopping when a man claimed to be an officer approached her, saying that her car was stolen. He asked her to go with him down with his car to the police station for questioning. While they were driving, the man handcuffed her and tried to kidnap her. The problem was that the man, now known as Ted Bundy, had accidentally only cuffed one hand, leaving her free to escape by jumping out of the car. Ted frankly drove over. Unfortunately, late that night, another young woman named Deborah Kent, the same age as my mom, 18 at the time, was raped and murdered by Bundy. My mom was present at the 1979 trial, becoming a damning piece of evidence against Bundy. Bundy was sentenced to death and execution in 1989 at age 42. My mother had never forgotten this experience and was always adamant about keeping me safe as a kid, as she knew the dangers of the world. She finally told me when I was 16, after I had seen a documentary on TV about Ted Bundy. She had moved on from the experience, but has it all in the back of mind that you shouldn't trust anyone based on what they say they are. For curiosity. So yeah, that was the thing. I was getting a little too off track, but you guys can have it. It's going to be a link below for other stuff like that. And let's continue with part 2. Part 2, or here I picked specifically for you guys to listen to, and it's called the Villisca Axe Murder. You guys probably heard it many times before, but here is what I want to say. This is my great-great-grandmother's story. She passed away in 2008, in the ripe old age of 103. This story is a family folklore, but unlike most family folklores, which have been exaggerated by time, this is 100% true. I created the throwaway in the case some internet sleuth finds out my family's name. I'd rather not have a tie to the main account. This story takes place in the year 1912 in a little Iowa farming community named Villisca. One summer day, my great-grandmother was asked if she could stay overnight at a friend's house with 2 other girls. When my great-grandmother asked her parents if she could attend the sleepover, she was told that she couldn't. as there was too much housework that needed to be done. But that's she could go over it the next day in the morning, after the morning chores had been completed. The next morning, the great-great-grandfather's friend, her siblings, her parents, and 2 other guests that were staying overnight were found murdered. The police discovered that all 8 people were bludgeoned to death by the murder weapon, an axe, was left in the house. The murder has never been solved. To this day, my family's unofficial motto is "Saved by choice." And yes, this story is used in my family to scare children into completing their homework and housework. And I'm not sure if this story is going to turn out good. Well, in the end, to me the story was good, but a lot with stuff that I do. Let's continue with 1 more, maybe 2 more after this, and let's get started. I worked at a pet store in Wisconsin in 1998. I was 16, as far as I can remember, saving up for a car and insurance. The boss assigned me to a fish section, and it would be down to me to clean the tanks and feed the fish and to sell the fish to customers. One day an old man came in and gave me the creeps. He had a glass eye. He had glass eyes, and his skin looked all over waxy. He asked me which fish I liked the most. I told him I liked a particular goldfish. I left for a moment to speak with some other customers. They weren't buying any fish, just looking around, but I wanted to get away from that weirdo. He smelled funny too. Smelled like putrid meat. The woman I talked to slapped her mouth and pointed behind me. I turned and I saw the weird old man with the glass eyes reaching over the tank, chasing the little goldfish. The one I said was my favorite. He got one, not my favorite one, by the tail and brought it out and shoved it into his mouth. He chewed on it and slipped down all over his lips into his chin. I was completely in shock. He was just staring at me while chewing. The man called Bill, who worked in the bird section, came running into the fish section. They chased the man out. I ran to the phone in the staff room and called the cops. The man was long gone. You might be thinking, well, if it's only fish, but if there were, I would have shot you too. Besides, it got worse. He was back a few weeks later. Despite being banned, he wasn't only by my section. He heard the birds going crazy and found him in their cage, trying to grab them. I saw him grab a small green parrot and squeezing it. It dead. His head flopped down limp. The man with his glass eyes shoved the parrot into his mouth and pulled it out. I thought I saw blood running out of the shop crying. I saw blood and I ran out of the shop crying. I remember flopping in sick a lot in that period. I was freaked out. Bill rang me over one day and said the man was caught by the police station and was cautioned to stay away from the store. I went back, and everything went back to normal for a time. A few months later, the man with glass eyes was back. Only this time, he wasn't over a small mammal section. He was over the small mammal section. My work colleague, a good friend, Jesse Thomasland, we still talk about this regularly, started screaming, "Call the police! Call the police!" I ran over and the old man was staying in the rabbit hutch, and he was tearing open the rabbit's throat and burying his teeth and hands into it. The rabbit was thrashing around in panic. There was blood all over his mouth. When he saw me, he pointed and screamed something in a weird language. It scared the hell out of me. He threw the rabbit at Jesse and ran straight at me. He was growling like a zombie. He had look in his face like all he wanted to bit into my throat or something like that. I ran behind Bill, and he threw up the old man, and he grabbed the hair and pulled it. Bill and the other man had only came into the store to buy some dog treats. Whistled and pinned the old man down on the floor. The cops arrested him this time. I was naturally freaked out for months. Turns out the old man with the glass eyes and in a section under Mental Health Act, and is still, by my knowledge, locked up there to this day. Or maybe he is dead. That comforts me more. I will never forget him pointing at me with those bloody fingers and teeth. So creepy, that guy in the store. If you are still alive, let's never meet again. That is basically what I have to say for today. If you guys like the story, comment below if you want another story from Reddit read, and if you have any suggestions for me, comment below for that too. And after all, anything creepy and weird can and normally does happen at night. And without further ado, subscribe if you haven't, dislike if you do not like this, and if you want to see more contests, like this or dislike this, and see me on Facebook, Instagram, and also Reddit too. And I will see you guys for more creepy videos in the future, and see you guys